There may just be a way for the Big 12 to expand without having to wait for the ACC to potentially fall apart. And they do it in a way that still adds revenue for the existing members of the conference. And if you want to know how that could happen, hang around. I'll tell you right after this word from my sponsor. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up? Welcome in. Come on in. Make yourself comfortable. Belly yourself up to the bar, and let me pour you out another shot of top shelf college football content. If this is your first time here at Couz's Corner, I'm your host, Couz. I cover the Big 12. I cover the West Virginia Mountaineers, and I cover conference realignment. If you like that kind of content, please hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share it with your family and friends. And when I give you this idea that I'm going to throw out to you, let me know in the comments what you think about it. And a lot of you are going to be surprised that I'm actually talking about this because it's something it's something I've been against the Big 12 doing since it ever came up as a topic of conversation. And what I'm talking about is the Big 12 potentially adding Oregon State and Washington State, the two teams left out of the P4. The two PAC members that are remaining that are still trying to figure out what their future looks like. I do think there's a way, potentially, to add those two teams without diluting the revenue for the other teams in the conference. And also offsetting, and more than offsetting, actually, any increased travel cost that could come with adding those two schools. And let me lay it out for you. Now, look, this is not some just brand new idea, I'm sure. I'm sure there have probably been other people who have come up with this idea. I just haven't heard it yet, I'm sure. But there's been a lot of other channels out there talking about Oregon State, Washington State coming to the Big 12. Big College Football Mafia Network being one of those. Locked On Big 12 being another, and I'm sure there have been others as well. Greg Flugar, I'm sure, has talked about it on his channel. That college football's peeking around the corner, but this is something I've been against. And Greg Swain put out a tweet yesterday, July 24th, that really brought this idea back to my head. He put out, and again, a lot of you don't believe Greg Swain. I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether to believe him or not, but he gave me the idea for this video. And what his tweet basically said in a nutshell is conversations are ongoing about Oregon State, Washington State potentially coming to the Big 12 in the future. Didn't say it was imminent, didn't say it would happen soon, but they are having conversations according to Mr. Swain. And my first thought was, man, I hope that don't happen. Then I got to spending more time thinking about it. I'm thinking, okay, is there a way it could work? They do have that money that they're getting from the Pac-12, but I'm thinking they're going to need to use that money to pay off, the house settlement stuff and all that's coming down the pipeline because they're on the hook for that too. And I just don't know that that'd be enough. And I don't want to dilute the revenue that current teams in the Big 12 are getting. You don't want to bring teams in and my team's West Virginia, for example. I don't want West Virginia to have to cut into their revenue just to go add Florida or Oregon State and Washington State, plus the additional travel the travel costs are going to incur on top of that. So it would need to make sense financially for them to be added. But what I'm going to throw out to you is something that might actually work financially. And here's the first thing. And I know a lot of you are thinking, but Couz, ESPN and Fox are not going to pay for these two teams to come into the league. Now, let me show you a snippet of an article that Dennis Dodd wrote back in November of 22. I'm only going to show you a snippet. I'll link to the entire article in the description box. But here's what it said. Details have emerged on the inner workings of Big 12 expansion. While it's no secret Yormark wouldn't mind expanding beyond 12 teams, Big 12 partner ESPN has agreed to pay pro rata, equal value to existing teams, should the Big 12 add members. CBS Sports has confirmed. Meanwhile, the league's other partner, Fox, has not made such an agreement. Now, it's believed that Fox did agree to do that verbally, even though it wasn't written into the deal, that they may have agreed to do that for the Four Corner schools, or the existing teams cut into their own revenue to do it. We don't know for sure yet. But nonetheless, Fox and ESPN have did agree to add those schools. Keep in mind, again, this was written in November of 22, but let's keep going. ESPN owns 63% of the value of the $2.3 billion contract that begins in 25. As such, it gets top picks with the 4 best football games each season, 6 of the top 8, 8 of the top 12, and 12 of the top 20, according to Sports Business Journal. Fox, which owns the remaining 37% of the deal, receives 26 games per season. If the Big 12 expands, the new team or teams would get 63% of pro rata revenue, or approximately $20 million. Should Fox not approve of expansion, the Big 12 would retain the right to shop those added games to other media partners. Still, those added games wouldn't be available for a new partner until after Fox had made all its picks. But now, the pro rata piece, though, it's not in this article, but in other articles, the way it was written up is they only get pro rata if they add P5 teams. And yes, Oregon State and Washington State are technically still the Pac-12, but Pac-12 lost its P5 status after the other 10 teams left the league. So, Oregon State and Washington State technically are no longer P5 schools. So technically, Fox and ESPN, or ESPN rather, likely would not pay pro rata for those two schools. So on the surface, that sounds like a terrible idea. Don't add them then. But you got to go to the next paragraph. The end of the next paragraph. Should Fox not approve of expansion, and look, ESPN is not mentioned here, but I'm making an assumption here. The same would apply to ESPN. If they don't approve of expansion, the Big 12 would retain the right to shop those added games to other media partners. So if ESPN and Fox refuse to add Oregon State and Washington State, or to pay for Oregon State and Washington State, Brett Yormark could go to someone, I don't know, like TNT maybe, who just lost out on the NBA deal that they were offering $1.8 billion for. TNT wants to be in live sports. They lost the NBA deal. Now they're going to try to sue the NBA, which I think is a terrible idea. But nonetheless, TNT could be an option. No, they're not going to pay $1.8 billion for a handful of Big 12 games. I get that. But they might pay you, I don't know, $100 million, $120 million, $150 million, $200 million, whatever the number is. They might pay you something. And every Big 12 team could potentially benefit from that. Even if it adds $5 million a year to your bottom line, or $10 million a year to your bottom line, it might be worth looking at. The Pac-2, the Pac-12, whatever you want to call them, Oregon State, Washington State, guess who they're doing a TV deal with? CW. CW is airing 11 of the 13 games, with Fox taking on the other 2 this upcoming season in their scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. I would say Fox would rather have Oregon State and Washington State playing Big 12 teams than playing Mountain West teams, wouldn't you? No offense to Mountain West, but I would think those would be more attractive games to Fox, especially if they can do it for the same money potentially. And the CW, you don't think they would rather have them playing Big 12 games versus Mountain West games too? Those 2 networks might be willing to pony up some money to get them into the Big 12 and have them playing better competition. They could keep games in that part of the country against better competition for a pretty low rate for the next, at least for the next 6 years anyway. And oh, by the way, there's another $222 million sitting out there that could also be on the table because of the quote unquote war chest that Oregon State and Washington State are getting from the settlement and from those other teams leaving the Pac-12 and leaving them behind. They're getting $65 million of Pac-12 revenue for over the next 2 years. They're getting, I think it's $100 million or something in Rose Bowl money for the next 2 years. They're getting all the Pac-12 college football playoff money for the next 2 years. And there's also some other money in there. I think there could be some NCAA money tied in there. But all in all, according to an article by John Wilner, which I'll also link to in the description box, according to an article by John Wilner written 4 months ago, it's about $222 million worth of money that those two schools are sitting on. I did the math. Over the course of the 6-year deal, the extended deal that the Big 12 got with Fox and ESPN, it equals about $18.5 million per school for those two schools. $18.5 million. It's not 31.7 that the current Big 12 schools are getting, but it's 18.5. And oh, by the way, remember the network I told you they could go potentially third network they could do business with? Add that money into the deal as well. What if you're getting another 5 to 10 million a year on top of that? Think about it. It could work. You're not diluting the revenue from the other teams. They would basically be buying their way in, yes, to a degree, but they could use that war chest to offset any revenue they're not getting. Heck, maybe they even throw a couple $1 million to the other Big 12 teams to literally buy their way in, to really buy their way in. Or whatever TV revenue that those other networks, if it's TNT or whoever, whatever money they pay out to the Big 12, maybe those two schools don't get any of it. Maybe it all goes to the existing 16 schools. And by the way, when it's time to renegotiate that media deal in 2030 or 2031, you have two schools in the fourth time zone who are there year-round. Arizona's only in the fourth Pacific time zone part of the year. But you have two teams in the Pacific Northwest. They could be travel partners in the non-revenue sports, get you into the fourth time zone for the entire year, gives you more games you can play on Saturday nights. It's a valuable time slot for these networks, and gives you two more teams of inventory. And if they decide to add Gonzaga down the road in basketball only, it gives you two schools in their neck of the woods. And then if ESPN doesn't want to play ball, and now obviously you want ESPN to be on board with this, you probably want to see what your evaluation would be, on their next potential deal. You don't want to piss ESPN off, but if ESPN would buy into this and agree to this, and Fox would agree to this, I think it benefits everybody. I do. I think it benefits everybody. They would have enough money to pay off the house settlement stuff, potentially. They would have, you would be, sweetening the pot, so to speak, for the current Big 12 members by giving them getting the additional TV revenue from that third partner. I think everybody wins here. It gets them back into a Power Five. It gets them back into a power conference. Again, I was not crazy about those two schools joining the Big 12 because of the additional travel, and it still doesn't really excite me a whole lot as a West Virginia fan. But man, if it makes the conference more money and helps them get a little bit closer to what the SEC and Big Ten are making, then I'm willing to look at it, and I'm willing to change my mind. And I think this is an idea that might just work. Again, I don't know the inner workings of the TV deals. I'm not sure, if they could go get that third media partner or not. All of that. Some of that is stuff that I would need answers from someone who is in the know. If you know the answer, let me know in the comment section. I also want to hear what you think about this idea. Is that a harebrained idea that actually absolutely would not work, or do you think it just might work? Let me know in the comments section. Also want to give a shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode. These are paid VIP members who pay every month either $2.99 or $4.99. It's Phil Masters, Tom Reinhart, Hellbilly, and Todd Biela. Thank you for your membership. If you want to become a member of that club, hit the join button below or go to my channel homepage and hit join over there. Take advantage of the perks I have to offer by being a channel member. Also, if you want to check out my merch store, you can do that. You can go to my website, couzescorner.com. Keep up with your West Virginia sports content over there. Also, have another video you can check out about conference realignment right here. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. Have a top shelf day, and cue country roads.